I'm Funmi Fetto, and this is On Reflection, the beauty podcast with a global view on beauty. Today's episode is in association with Murad, the clinical but cool doctor brand that takes a whole person approach to skin wellness and sets the bar for high-performance skincare. A little later, I'll be in conversation with the mega makeup artist Mally Thomas, aka King Mally Magic. She's recently been named the Global Artist in Residence for Bobbi Brown. We discuss everything from her career to colorism. But first, required reading. This is the section of the show where we discuss beauty news, topics and features that have caught our attention. My guest this week is Kathleen Ho. She's the beauty director of New York Magazine and The Cut, and she joins us to share her thoughts on toxic beauty ingredients, the influencer hair salon under attack, and Instagram algorithms. Kathleen, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So there was this story in The Guardian where Candice Swanepoel posted a half-naked picture of herself on Instagram. Then Celeste Barber, who's the Australian comedian, posted a half-naked one of herself in exactly the same pose, but it was a parody. Then Instagram took one down, Celeste. She's the bigger of the two and not aligned to this certain idealized beauty. But they didn't take down Candice's. It was sort of highlighting the fact that Instagram's algorithms are prejudiced. I mean, it is shocking in the way that it works like this, but in some ways it shouldn't really be surprising because algorithms essentially are created by humans, right? And humans have biases and prejudices.
I think the story is intriguing, first because the Instagram algorithm is truly a mystery, I think, to many, many people. Oftentimes, we don't think about it in the sense that we're like, oh, this picture didn't show up for me. We don't think like, I wonder why. But as you said before, since the Instagram algorithm is created by humans, there's an inherent bias in the algorithm itself. Who would have guessed that this algorithm would also have some body shaming or fat shaming issues with it?
I don't know how algorithms work, but I've always thought to myself, well, they don't just fall out of the sky. Like someone inputs certain data. I'm no Silicon Valley tech girl, but surely it's human beings who have created this. And that's why it's biased, just as another human being would be. This is not the first time it's happened. So in June this year, there was a plus-size model, Naomi Nicholas Williams, and she posted this quite sort of artistic topless picture of herself where she covered her breasts with her arms. She wasn't naked, but Instagram removed it. And she was a Black woman, and this is in the middle of this Black Lives Matter movement, which was particularly bold. I guess that's one word you could use, bold of Instagram to do it in that time. There were a lot of complaints. There was a change.org petition that amassed tons of signatures. The CEO publicly acknowledged that they need to look at Instagram for algorithmic biases. So I just thought it's strange that even with Instagram, that's supposed to be this platform where you see all representations of beauty who still have this issue.
I wonder why Instagram's algorithm is blocking it. When they censor images, it's supposed to be things that are not socially acceptable or things that I guess could potentially be flagged by the community. So I wonder first, well, if someone saw the Celeste Barber picture and flagged it and enough people flagged it that Instagram thought it was a concern, or if it was something that is inherent within the algorithm itself.
Nothing seems to have changed from that time when Adam Mosseri, who's the CEO, said our focus will start with the Black community, but we're also going to look at how we can better serve other underrepresented groups. But I don't think that's really changed. I mean, that was in June, so nothing's really changed.
So the Instagram algorithm, from what I understand, is that it kind of feeds you more and more of the images that you like, right? So if you're clicking on like your sister's post or something like that, it will continue to always bring that up in your feed. But I'm sure for a lot of us, we're following tons of people and a lot of those people aren't shown in the feed. So even though the algorithm itself obviously has a bias towards things like this, I think it also brings light to the question of like, what things are you liking? And is that the only thing that you're seeing on your Instagram because it's what you're continually interacting with, you know? And so I think that especially after Black Lives Matter, people have been making a lot of effort to try and follow diverse accounts and to try and follow more social justice causes and things like that are important to them, Black entrepreneurs and Black-owned businesses and stuff like that. But this also serves as a reminder, too, that it's important to interact with those accounts if you want to see more of them, like comment, like, share, whatever. Otherwise, you're not going to get it served in your feed, unfortunately.
Absolutely. And I think the more we see different aspects of beauty, different types of beauty represented, the more we normalize it. When Naomi Nicholas Williams posted that topless photo of herself, even though her breasts weren't showing, they were covered by her arms, her followers all rallied behind her using the hashtag, I want to see Naomi. And so a lot of them reposted the original picture that was deleted by Instagram. And Instagram then deleted it from their posts, notifying them that it goes against our community guidelines on nudity or sexual activity. So it just goes to show that even if you try to normalize certain things, if Instagram themselves are not enabling you to normalize it and they're not normalizing it, then we're still in many ways restricting our ideals and our ideas of what beauty is.
And I think Instagram, I would consider, I guess, out of all the platforms, is trying to be the most vigilant, I guess, in terms of like looking at community. I think they're very vigilant in terms of bullying and things like that. They also are very good at like putting up kind of like trigger warnings for things, or even, we have a big election coming up in November. There's a lot of different little activations that Instagram is doing. So I can only imagine what it's like on Twitter or like on Facebook, in areas like that, where there is like a lot less kind of guidance and like a mechanism to look at things like this.
Yeah, it's a tricky one because it then all feeds into that issue of censorship. Who decides what should be censored? Yes, there's a generic universal moral compass that most people would agree on, but then there's the gray areas where some people might say that picture of Naomi was offensive or it crossed the line, and other people will think, well, actually, she's just celebrating her body. She's not showing any of her private parts. Why should it be removed from Instagram? Is it because she doesn't fit the mold of what society thinks is beautiful? I think that issue of censorship is something that we need to begin to really explore.
For sure.
Let's go to our next story, toxic beauty.
So I'm not sure what it's like in the UK, but in the US, there's been a clean beauty revolution happening for a while. I would say it's probably been going on for maybe the past 3-4 years, a general desire by consumers to want quote unquote clean beauty or green beauty. And as the kind of wellness trend has taken height in America, people have been looking at their beauty products as well. So part of the issue, I think, with this clean and green beauty movement is that these terms aren't regulated by the government. So a lot of brands can claim that their products are green or clean, but there's no standard across all these brands that says that, we all share these things in common. This is what makes us clean or green. This article is talking about how there will be a new proposal by California to potentially put in place a law that will ban different harmful cosmetics ingredients. And I think this is a big deal because there is no regulation at all in terms of what you can and can't put in your beauty products, which is pretty shocking considering that they go directly on our skin.
We have the same situation in the sense that it's not really regulated. There are a lot of brands that can use the term clean, which is why the term clean has become more and more problematic over the years. That word has become quite ambiguous and loaded in many ways because there's no regulation. No one can actually pinpoint what it really means. The difference here, I guess, we do have quite tight regulations around ingredients that cannot be in products in order for them to be sold here. So there are around 1,300 ingredients that have been banned. And I think in the States, you only have 11, which when you think about it, it's quite crazy, right? In African nations, Asian countries, there are a lot of skin lightening products and they have harmful toxic ingredients and they're still sold quite openly. And even here, you can still get some of them, but they're in quite rogue shops and they're sold under the counter, or you can get them online. And I find it incredible that there is such a huge disparity between what countries and continents consider toxic or what they're allowed to sell. What's even more terrifying for me is you realize how rife these ingredients are in products targeting the Black community. So many of these products have been discovered to cause health issues.
One of the big culprits that people have been wanting more investigation behind is, for example, formaldehyde, frequently being used in Brazilian blowouts or in like keratin treatments and different kind of treatments to straighten hair. There was an article that actually I think just came out today in the Times. It talks about how in 2016, some agency scientists wanted to actually deem hair straighteners containing formaldehyde to be unsafe, but for some reason it didn't happen.
Would you say in the States, this conversation to ban these ingredients is an ongoing one in lots of different states? Because I know this piece that we're talking about in WWD, this was just California, wasn't it?
Yes. I don't know if the conversation has extended to other states. I know that California was one of the first to ban animal testing on beauty products, and other states are trying to follow. There's also the Crown Act, which is a new act that was just signed into law in a few states, including California and New Jersey, which bans discrimination based on
hair texture. Yes.
That's been great. So I think that California, for whatever reason, maybe because of the environment, maybe because of the kind of people that live there, they seem to be kind of at the forefront of making sure that the regulation is happening for these green products and making sure that things are healthier. I think the other thing that's interesting, too, about this Toxic-Free Cosmetic Act that they're trying to bring into law is that they are prohibiting chemicals that you're like, why would you need a law necessarily to sign these into effect to make sure they aren't in our products? Consumers shouldn't have to rely on this potentially invisible safety net to protect them from these kinds of like chemicals.
These chemicals and these ingredients have been used in products for so long because those formulations are probably cheaper. And that's always been the problem. A lot of companies have put their bottom line before they put people's lives. Money has always been more important than the lives of their consumers. I do think that that's changing now. There's a lot of brands who are now having to think about their consumers for so many different reasons. They think about their consumers because if you don't think about your consumers, as in what are your consumers' values and how do you align with those values, you will not survive. We are in a state now where people call you out and people are shopping according to their values. And if you don't align with that, you won't get the sales. A lot of the information is out there for us to explore. And there isn't the opportunity as much to pull the wool over the eyes of people who are buying your products. So they've had to change. And in order to be global, a lot of brands have realized that they have to have a global approach when it comes to formulating. You know, all those products that don't follow EU guidelines in terms of the ingredients you put into a product, they can't be sold here. It's not a huge market when you compare it to the States, I guess, but, you know, Europe is a big market when it comes to beauty. I'm noticing a lot of brands now are taking that into consideration and they're formulating their products according to EU regulations, even though they don't have to, but they know it's a wise move because people do want cleaner products sold across the world.
Right.
So this is a story on the Vox, and I found it fascinating. It's about the Habit Hair Salon, which is a hair salon that's popular with influencers that has come under fire for two things: not practicing social distancing, but also sending out its clientele in sort of cookie cutter hairstyles that align to a certain ideal of femininity. I'll just read a quote from the piece. Hair by Chrissy's factory-like approach, chronicled in dozens of identical videos in which a beautiful woman enters a salon and leaves with the exact same uncanny valley mermaid hair, is a microcosm of the monotony of female beauty standards on social media. I thought it was hysterical.
I think that this mermaid hair look, it's an American affliction. I mean, I've been to the UK, I've watched British television. I really don't see this like long kind of mermaid style hair anywhere else except on TV in America and like on Instagram or on things like that. I think I started noticing it like a few years ago. We have a very popular show that you guys have probably heard of called The Bachelor/Bachelorette, right? Where
yes,
tons of contestants compete for the quote unquote love of one person. And there'll be like 22 contestants or whatever like that in a season. And you'll notice that every single contestant will have about the same hair. It's always that like long kind of beachy hair, but it's not like a brush through kind of wave. It's like still fresh from the curling iron. Like all the curls have been kind of turned this one way and the hair is all around like the same length. And it's like this only in America, because I've seen Love Island, which I know is another
yes.
No one there has this hair. Like the contestants there all have different hair types. So I don't know why this is just like a thing in America. Maybe we just have always really valued long hair. Maybe it was seen as like a thing of luxury. Maybe we just like never got over like the beachy hair thing because like we have that like California thing going on. But like this is like truly like a very American thing. So when I saw this clip of all these influencers leaving with the exact same hair, I was like, this is exactly what American hair is like. I thought it was hilarious. First of all, not only that like everyone got the same hairstyle, a lot of influencers and bachelorettes went there, but also sadly that they're not doing what seems like the appropriate safety measures in terms of having people wear masks.
Yeah. How seriously are people taking it there? Because I heard Zadie Smith actually speak recently about this, and she has lived in New York for a while and she's British. And she said she was quite shocked when she came back to London mid-pandemic and saw how casual people were in regards to the mask wearing situation, almost like we weren't taking it as seriously. So it was interesting reading this and seeing how the TikTokers were really cross about habit really not taking mask wearing seriously at all.
I think it also depends on where you are. In an area like New York, where we were hit so hard by the pandemic, so we took it quite seriously from the beginning. And in terms of being able to do things like eat in a restaurant, like we're among the last few states that's been able to do that. Like the regulations have been lifting very, very slowly for good reason. If we don't wear a mask, if Brandon doesn't wear a mask, I notice immediately that person will get like a wide berth, or they'll just like, we'll just stare at them. It's not very subtle. I guess it's very New York of us, but it's true. In terms of this mermaid hair, did this look strange to you? Have you noticed this among Americans?
Yeah, I do think it's probably much more American than here. I think here we're probably a lot more individual in terms of how we wear our hair and how we present ourselves. London is kind of known for that. It's a real sort of melting pot of styles and types of beauty. I see that reflected all around me. So that's why I found this quite hilarious. Kathleen, thank you so much for coming on. It was brilliant speaking with you. Thank you.
No, thank you so much for having me. It was so fun.
It's now time for In Praise Of, where we laud the merits of a single beauty product. This week, it's Murad's Vita C Glycolic Brightening Serum. Do brands actually understand the term multitasker? Do they understand that to truly claim that title, your products actually need to perform all their functions to a high standard? I say this because if I didn't have my wits about me, I'd be convinced that all these singing, all dancing products that promise to make me look 200 years younger overnight and walk my dog and clean my house were actually for real. Okay, so I'm being facetious. The point is, most of these products overpromise and underperform. So here's my thing. If you claim to be a hyphenate, then you need to be real and you need to deliver. Not sure what I mean? Well, treat this brightening and exfoliating serum as your blueprint. It does everything it says on the tin, and frankly, it's utterly magical. Long story short, if you have dull, uneven skin that also has damage from pollution and UV light, well, this is how you deal with it and make it more luminous. In fact, the serum does its job so effectively that if it were human, it would deserve a mammoth pay rise. Key ingredients: glycolic acid, the stuff that eats away at the dead skin that makes you look lifeless. And then vitamin C, the antioxidant that brightens and defends the skin against environmental aggressors. But don't be fooled. This is not your bog standard vitamin C. This is gold stabilized vitamin C, which means yes, it is stable, not as common as you'd think, which makes it incredibly potent and able to absorb into the skin significantly better than its less efficacious counterparts. Think of this as the fancy relative that serves up dramatically brighter skin every time you visit. 70% of testers saw a huge difference in a week. So the next time you look up high-performing multitasker, expect to see this standing next to it. If you don't know, now you know. I'm super excited about this one. Today I have with me the incredible Mally Thomas, also known as King Mally Magic, also known as the Complexion Queen. She's an amazing makeup artist, entrepreneur, and activist whose work has been seen on numerous well-known faces and, of course, across social media. She's known for championing dark skin tones. She created the Dewy Brown Girls makeup movement, and she's recently been named the Global Artist in Residence for Bobbi Brown. Welcome to the show, Mali. Really wonderful to have you here.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And I'm very excited about this new role.
I'd love to know what you recall as a young girl. You know, what was your first interaction with beauty?
My mother, essentially, and Black women. I was inspired by all of the women that surrounded me because not only did they look like me, they looked like who I wanted to become. So everything about my mother's makeup routine was kind of rooted in confidence, purple eyeshadow and bold liners. She was unapologetic about the way she presented herself, and I loved that. And my first memory of beauty as a young girl was when I basically took one of my mother's lipsticks. I wasn't supposed to wear lipstick at this time. I was like in the 5th grade. And I remember running to the car after school, and I got in the car and I'm just talking to her. I'm like, oh, my day was great. And, you know, what did you do? And all of this good stuff. And she looked at me and she said, you forgot to take your lipstick off, didn't you? So that was my first memory of getting into the world of beauty. And she pretty much embraced it. So it was cool. I remember that memory. It was hilarious. My mother passed away in 2010, but she was definitely, you know, someone that was very powerful and very strong. And she, like I said, she was unapologetic about her look. She really made sure that she presented herself well. So my mother and the women around me influenced me for sure.
She sounds like an incredible woman. Tell me how you got into the industry. Where did you begin?
I feel like some days I feel like I'm still getting into the industry. You know what I mean? I got through the industry through several doors, and I pretty much created my own lane at the same time. What was happening was a lot of models were coming to me before they went to different photo shoots because the makeup artists on set did not know how to match their foundation. So they would come to me and get ready before their photo shoots, and then they would actually go to the jobs.
Wow.
You know, this kind of sparked something in me that, of course, wanted to create change. It was unfortunate that they would go on set and they really didn't feel valued or seen. And this still happens. A lot of models go to set and they take their own foundation, they take their own eyeshadows, they basically do the job of a makeup artist. One of the issues that I've seen throughout the years in the industry is these companies would hire makeup artists that really did not know how to do makeup on women of color. So these models would come to me before jobs and I would get them ready. And that was kind of my opening to the industry, me coming in and just representing Black women from the beginning and interrupting some things and being the voice for them and for us, shaking some things up, basically.
Some people, I guess, would say that that's brave. And in many ways, yeah, I think it is brave because you started talking about these issues and amplifying Blackness and Black skin. You were behind the dewy brown skin movement long before people started really openly talking about it. I mean, we've all known the issues in the beauty industry have been there for so long. We've all been on sets where the girl with the dark skin is not getting her makeup done right. We've been at fashion shows where the girl with the dark skin is bringing out her own foundation and certain beauty brands are not catering to darker skinned women. We've all known it, but not very many people had been talking about it or really putting it out there.
Right.
I think that's incredible that you were doing that really early on. What did you find was the reaction of people around you? Because your social media is very much geared towards that and amplifying Black skin that has for so long been marginalized.
You know, it was always important for me to stand for something. That's the family I come from. I come from a long cycle of entrepreneurs and strong Black women and Black men. And I didn't want to stand to the side and not represent for myself first, and then come in and represent for all of the different women that were around me. Like you just pointed out, the models that sit in the corner, don't have the right foundation, you don't know what to do with their textured hair. And I basically gravitated towards those women. I was going to create a platform I wanted to see them on. And that's what my social media represents. A lot of people in the industry told me a long time ago, you know what, Mally, basically your page is too Black. You know, you want to make sure that you're getting these top jobs and you need to show diversity. You need to show that you can do makeup on white people. And you know what's so interesting about Black artists is that we know how to do it all. We know how to do makeup on every single skin tone. We know how to take care of all different hair textures because we had to learn everything so that we could be accepted in this industry.
Absolutely.
Often, white artists, they don't have to learn these things and they're still accepted and they still get these jobs. I know how to do makeup on every single skin tone because as a Black woman, I've always had to go over and above to earn my spot. I wanted to create an oasis for us. And instead of being afraid of not showing white women on my page, I decided to just celebrate us. And then the brands started coming to me. The industry came to me because I just remained true to myself. And this is by no means trying to discredit anyone. I just know that we've been pretty much the underdogs and we've been the ones that were the afterthought. And I wanted us front row and center. I wanted us celebrated. And that's what my page represents.
I love it. Thank you. Did you at any point at all, and I know that you've always had that confidence and you've always had that sense of self and that very focused messaging and you knew what you wanted to achieve, but at any point at all, did you feel that you had to be silent? Because I have spoken to so many different people who have worked within our industries where we are in very white spaces or, you know, spaces where, you know, you're the only one. And they have been told, you know, in the past that if they don't tone it down, they won't get the jobs.
I definitely had people saying that to me. And you know what? What's really interesting is I had Black people saying it to me. It was my Black colleagues. It was Black makeup artists that were also afraid. They were afraid that I wouldn't get huge opportunities if I didn't show my work on white girls. And that messaging came from, you know, vets, people who had been in the game longer than me. I've been doing this for 10 plus years. There are people who have been doing makeup for 20 plus years, and they saw a completely different world than me. You know, they were kind of warning me in a way, like, Mally, just make sure that you show a mix on your page. I mean, obviously I didn't listen, you know what I mean? I kind of beat to my own drum and I'm okay with that. I just decided to follow my heart. It was heartbreaking having models come to me and tell me that I can't find my foundation shade, or, you know, I have to go to set fully ready, or I feel excluded when I'm in certain spaces. That was heartbreaking for me. I understand how that feels, and I would never want anyone to feel that way. And that's basically my message. These models never forgot how they felt. They're pretty much scarred from those experiences. And I wanted to change the narrative for them. And I think that I've done it, but I still got a lot of work to do.
You talked about Bobbi Brown being the first brand you could actually put in your kit when you started out. Mm-hmm. And you've talked about what the landscape was like during that time. How much do you think things have actually changed? If you look at where we are now as an industry, and you look back at when you first started, what are the things that have really significantly changed for you?
What's changed for me is through social media, they're listening. We're still facing the same issues, but now they're actually listening because social media has this thing that can push you against the wall and hold you accountable. And a lot of brands have been afraid of that.
Do you think that's only just happened because of what's been happening this year? We've had protests following George Floyd's death. Do you feel that it's just after that that brands are really listening, or had you seen a pattern of that happening over the years?
I think that it's happening because of our year. A lot of brands are jumping on board because, again, they're being held accountable. The reason why I decided to even do a partnership or come in with Bobbi Brown is because I've always recognized the brand, and I always loved the fact that they showed many representations of beauty, including Black women. I wasn't going to collaborate with anyone that wasn't rooted in that same values as me. I'm not interested in someone that's just jumping on board in 2020. You know,
yeah.
I've always been Black, and we should be honored and recognized. So yeah, there are plenty of brands that are jumping on board because their backs are against the wall. So do I feel that, you know, some of these brands are genuine? No. Not at all. Do I feel that Bobbi Brown is genuine? Absolutely. And that's the reason why I'm doing the partnership with them. And there are many other brands like Bobbi Brown that has always represented women of color in all different skin tones, and I've supported them. But I do not think that it's genuine from everyone. I don't feel like their motives are genuine. But the only thing that I can do is concentrate on what I can do.
I agree with so much of what you've said. There's a lot of performative allyship with a lot of brands who are suddenly interested in Black people and Black beauty and Black buying power. Mm-hmm. And we have to see how that plays out.
That is so powerful. And that's something that we're learning. I remember just researching our buying power and the amount of beauty products Black women buy. We really take care of ourselves. And what is so interesting is oftentimes we do not have our foundation shade. So we normally would buy more than one shade to even accommodate us because it's very hard to find. I do feel that, brands are recognizing our buying power as well. And they know that we are powerful and that we support many different brands, not only white-owned brands, Black-owned brands. We support so many different brands, yet it's taken so long for us to see representations of ourselves. I do feel that a lot of things are changing, but we still have a long way to go.
I'm nodding away and I'm in total agreement with everything you're saying. Awesome. I want to talk a little bit about colorism. Yes, you have been so influential and instrumental in amplifying Black beauty, but very specifically dark skin beauty, dark skin girls. And that's really powerful because we are still in a place where the beauty industry seems to prize anything closer to white ideals as more valuable and more superior. What was it quite specifically that made you think, actually, I need to really celebrate these women?
I am always gravitating or attracting the underrepresented. Some kind of way they find me and we find each other and we love on each other and we celebrate each other. It's been like this all my life. Even in high school, I remember like the bullies, they became my friends because I'm like, girl, let me do your eyebrows. Like, I don't want to fight. I want Toni Morrison has this quote and it said, could you imagine that type of pain about color, this interior pain for a Black girl to think that if she had some characteristics of the white world, she would be okay. That quote has followed me for a very, very long time because to think that we deal with colorism in our own community, especially when we're dealing with so much already, that some of us feel that if we were lighter or if we had straighter hair, that we would be okay and we would be loved on and we would be celebrated. The melanin movement just happened maybe 5 to 7 years ago.
Yeah, not long at all.
Not long at all.
Yeah.
I remember when I first started We Are Not a Trend and Dewey Brown Girls. That's when the melanin movement just happened. And that was not long ago. I'm half Nigerian. My mother is Black American, was Black American because she passed away. But my father is Nigerian. And one thing that I've been doing recently is researching skin bleaching creams and how it's such a lucrative market. And it's always targeting dark-skinned people to make us feel like we have to change or alter our looks or we need to be lighter to be accepted. Could you imagine me with my dark skin and your gorgeous, beautiful skin thinking that you have to make it lighter to be accepted and to get jobs and to get chosen by a significant other? All of this programming is rooted in systemic racism. All of this programming is also rooted in images that we see in beauty. I've just started seeing not too long ago, dark-skinned girls in advertisement, And this is something that, again, it needs to change. Sometimes when I read headlines and they say, oh, this model is the first Black model to walk this runway in 100 years, and everyone is glorifying it. And I feel like it's a shame. Why, I don't look at that and say, oh my God, that is amazing. We made it through. I question it. I wonder, why did it take so long? Why did you want to keep us
down?
That's low level. We are on a high vibration. We are beautiful. We are so, 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 so beautiful. But I do think about little girls, little dark-skinned girls. I was a little dark-skinned girl. I needed to see myself. I needed to see representation of myself so that I can know that I could do it too. This is what I stand for. I represent for all women of color. Yes, absolutely. But do you know how many times I was told that I was pretty to be a dark-skinned girl? These are some of the deep scars that dark-skinned girls carry. It's an outside force that's just pinning us against each other because we're all Black and beautiful and should be proud of that. I know we talk so much about self-love and self-care and all of this stuff, but the outside world can be harsh. You're not careful, you can believe what they're saying.
And I think it's incredibly hard when that comes from your own community, people who are supposed to love you and have your best at heart.
I made sure that the brands I was working with knew that I want to hire my own models because they were not giving them opportunities. So I said I needed to create opportunities for these beautiful girls because now you have either a popularity contest or the ones that are, again, undervalued and you don't see them. So who's going to lift them up? Who's going to pull them up? Who's going to give them these opportunities? Makeup artistry, or the title of a makeup artist, is the last title that I carry. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an agent. I'm a healer.
What are the key things that you would like to see change in the beauty industry?
I would love to see just different types of beauty represented, including mature models. We have a few mature models out there, but not many. Ageism is real. And I feel that people kind of dispose of women when they get a certain age. It's a terrible thing in the beauty industry. And of course, I would love to continue to see many women of color on major campaigns. I also want to see many more Black-owned businesses.
The point you make about Black-owned businesses, it's a very relevant and very important one because there are so many stats that talk about Black women as being really incredible entrepreneurs, but where things fall down is the support. They're not getting the financing, they're not getting backing, they're not getting the financial support they need in order to grow and to really make a huge success of their business. So that absolutely needs to change. There needs to be so much more investment in the Black communities in terms of building Black founded brands.
Absolutely. I agree. I just want to speak to makeup artists and entrepreneurs out there. Sometimes you have to create your own lane. At all times, you need to stay true to yourself and people will come. The brands will come. The connections will come. Everyone will come as long as you just remain true to yourself.
Mali, that's a really amazing point to end this interview on, which has been so phenomenal.
This has been lovely.
Speak soon.
Yes, for sure.
And that's it for this week. Huge thanks to my guest, Kathleen Ho from New York Magazine and The Cut, and also to Mali Thomas. This episode was brought to you in association with Murad, the clinical but cool doctor brand that takes a whole person approach to skin wellness and sets the bar for high performance skincare. Thank you for joining me on Reflection. On Reflection is a Battersea podcast production.